there was a compromise reached with the governor, with myself, and the bill sponsor, and the agreement was to restore the child cuts and allow the bill to just not be called. And so that's where we were. And so that was a compromise that I reached with the governor, and the bill sponsor was comfortable with that. And so I stuck to my promise, because restoring 100,000 kids back to a safe child care provider environment was more important than playing politics down in Springfield. And so we should be celebrating the success of up to 100,000 children across this state are now back in safe child care facilities, that providers can provide those services, and parents of those children can go to school, they can go to work, and they can have a subsidy complementing them, knowing that their kids are in a learning environment. That's a success. And that was a part of the agreement that I worked out with the governor on behalf of all these children across the state of Illinois.
So what do you say to all the people who say it really wasn't you, it was Gordon Booth, and it was Senator Hutchinson who were working the issue they were the ones working with the advocates anyway.
I was working with the governor, trying to influence him to relent on this particular issue. These were 6 week to 12-year-olds. I said, Governor, you devastated the program. You have to work with the sponsors of the legislation. I also communicated very actively with my Senate and House colleague on what my communications were with the governor and his administrative team. So no one was in the dark on what the agreement was all about. Providers knew of this deal over the weekend. We confirmed everything on Monday. And so this bill being run was really against the agreement that at least I had, and I thought maybe the other sponsors were clear on, that we were going to not run the bill, or they were not going to run the bill, but simply allow, since the governor agreed and said, hey, look, I'm going to reverse course, don't run the bill, we're going to get these children back into child care. Because here's what would have happened had the bill passed. He would have sat on the bill for another 60 days, so we'd be in late January, early February, and then with us not having any budget, there would have been no money to pay for, or at least no commitment to prioritize funding for this population. And that was far more important to me, of having young children in childcare, giving their parents the ability to go back to work, to go to school, compared to politics of gotcha, or looking to teach the governor a lesson. Enough of that. It's about us doing what we're supposed to do as legislators. Work with each other, whether we're Republican or Democrat, on a compromise solution so we can do the people's work. And that's really it. So the providers and those parents, they're happy, because they are now redetermining all of those kids who simply were left at home or with family members for the last 5 months. So we should be celebrating, not trying to be vindictive politically against the governor, because people are sick and tired of Democrat or Republican issues or concerns. They want to see government function. And right now we're not functioning down in Springfield to the degree that we've committed and promised to both parties. And so we needed someone like myself to play an independent role and to facilitate with this governor that our leaders unfortunately have not been able to come up with an agreement with. And I promised child care providers that I would try my best to try to influence and talk with him, and I delivered.
Of course, they think you promised to vote for their bill.
Well, I was committed to.
I mean, they're not happy with you, right?
They're not. I co-sponsored the legislation.
I know.
But when you're down in the political arena, and in politics, we make arrangements with compromise. The compromise was the overall goal was to have those children restored. we accomplished that. They have the opportunity to go to child care today, earlier this week. He did exactly what he said he was going to do. When you come up with an agreement or compromise, it's imperative that both parties keep that agreement.
When you said, you mentioned this was more important than teaching the governor a lesson. Were you trying to teach Mike Madigan a lesson?
I'm not trying to teach or be a part of anything that's non-productive. My goal was to get the children back into child care, to have these single parents back in school, back to work, knowing that their kids are in a safe environment. Everybody got what they wanted.
What should be Madigan's takeaway from this whole episode?
That the governor and he and members are ready to work with a compromise, an overall compromise, to get things done in the state of Illinois. The politics of gotcha, of being negative towards each other, and the blame game is over. It's enough. Now is the time for us to get something done. People are sick and tired of us playing these silly political games, manipulating our time at the expense of citizens across this state. So just know I will never ever turn my back on my constituents. And this proved it by getting the governor to change, do an about face on the child care piece, as well as the determination of needs for the elderly. That was a major coup. He did a complete about face on that determination of need. He wanted to raise the score from 29 to 37. I said, Governor, you do not need to decimate a program for young children or our elderly, some of our most vulnerable citizens. Have a change of heart. Give me the benefit of the doubt that this is the right thing to do. And he agreed. And part of the agreement was to not run the bills. There was no need for the bills because we got what we wanted. The citizens got what they wanted.
As one of the sponsors of the bill, would it normally be we'd be able to promise to not run the bill?
No,
because you're saying that Booth agreed to.
I talked to Booth and said, Booth, there's no need to run this legislation.
And she agreed? I'm sorry?
She said the agreement was not made with her. The reason that we got the number, the 162 above the federal poverty level, was because of Jahan Gordon's number. That was her request. That's the Peoria poverty.
She said on the floor yesterday that was not true. She specifically said that was not true. I
talked to the Senate sponsor and asked.
I've heard people say that.
How did we get to, where did this 162 come from? Tory Hutchinson was at 157. I was at 185. Representative, my friend and colleague, said, well, the high minimum wage standard in Chicago is not the same as it is in Peoria. So instead of being at 157, we need to be at 162. That's where that number comes from. She knows that, the Senate sponsor knows it, I know it, and the governor's people were. So all three of us were communicating with the governor. I simply wanted to facilitate aggressively a resolution to this issue of getting these kids back into a safe child care facility. That was my goal. It was not to embarrass anybody. It was not to have a political upsmanship on someone. It was to simply serve as a negotiator to make something happen. And we did it. The governor kept his word. And I kept my word not to be a part of going against what he and I negotiated and what the sponsors were clear with.
Are you clear in your mind that, no doubt in your mind, you're the guy that made this happen with the governor? That you're the one that convinced him
I pressed him consistently. I encouraged him and his staff to work with my two colleagues, the two sponsors of the bill, because I wasn't in control of the legislation. As just being a co-sponsor is not the chief sponsor. So he had to talk with them. I wanted 185 for it to go back to where it was June 30th. The Senate sponsor came up with 162 based off of me talking actively with both of the sponsors of the legislation. I had to talk to Jahan Gordon. The governor's office had to talk with her because the legislation or the bill was in the House chamber. So that would be next to foolish or ridiculous to not talk with the sponsor of the bill. Also talk to Greg Harris, who is the chief sponsor of the determination of need. So listen, if you want things done, you got to work with people. Republicans, Democrats, downstaters, suburbanites, Chicagoans. That's how things get done. This is politics. For us to start active negotiations. The Senate should not be coming back to session in January. We should not be coming back in December. We should be negotiating further to get a state budget, to look for a solid compromise, and not this partisan bickering.
Feel free.
Okay.
I'm not trying
I don't
to.
want
But
to
She's a tough reporter. Listen. Can I stay over here next to you, Mark? I've seen her in action downstate.
no, I know she's tough. But let me ask one more here. So it's not. This is not out of character for you to sort of go out, be the guy that stands apart from everybody else on, where you are on an issue, right? I mean, you didn't want to join in on the Blagojevich impeachment, as I recall. Obviously, there was the ask me vote.
Actually, I voted to impeach Rob Blagojevich. Check the record.
Okay, so I'm not trying to trick. But
It's all good.
What was that? Weren't you?
I'm on the record of voting for him. There were 2 votes. I missed one. I was not there.
Okay.
Now, when the speaker calls a special session, within a short period of time, there are a number of members who don't make it. As a matter of fact, over the summer, the average attendance has been about 105 members in the House of Representatives out of 118. So it's not unusual for members not to, miss days. Out of 13 years, I've missed about 12 years, maybe 11 years. Days. Let's get that right. Out of almost 13 years, I've missed about 8 to 12 days of regular session. Fact check. A regular session. I guess I'm sick of the political shenanigans that both Democrats and Republicans are playing down there. And it's at the expense of all the citizens here in the state.
And does that include your own leader? I mean,
That includes listen.
You have a dispute with him, right?
I don't have a dispute with the speaker.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with Speaker Magin. I just don't work for him. And he, like myself and others, have to be about the business of getting something done. What is it that he is providing or offering up or willing to compromise immediately with this governor? So, this shift on Ken Dunkin, wonderful. But what is it that our leaders are doing or getting done to move the agenda? The agenda is to pass the budget and to provide safety net for our most vulnerable citizens, to have agencies functioning at full capacity, to resolve the pension problem, to come up with pension for the county of Cook, the city of Chicago, That's what all of us should be focused and concerned with. Excuse after excuse after political excuse after excuse. And people are fed up. And so if I can influence this governor to do the right thing, to do an about face on child care, an about face on home services for our most vulnerable elderly, that's a start that he is willing to do a strong negotiation. And that's where I am with this. So it's high time that we get our act together in both chambers, both sides of the aisle, that we sit down, maybe lock ourselves in a room, and figure this thing out. We're going into the holidays, and we are still playing these political games. And the speaker is going to have to take the lead, and all of us are going to have to push our egos aside and get something done. That's what this compromise with the governor was all about. That's the victory for the citizens. So that argument is gone now. The Don score is back to where it was just by me talking with the governor. And hopefully he's heard the advocates as well throughout this 5 months. But me insisting that he gets something done with these young kids. What's wrong with that? I'm not looking to be provocative or shilling for someone's political agenda. We got it done. There was an agreement. The agreement was to not run the bill. I was comfortable with that. The governor kept his word. And here we are now celebrating child care being back funded and the threshold being back raised. So that's what it is. And by the way, Governor Quinn made multiple changes to the child care poverty threshold, as well as the co-pays. He raised the co-pays. He used emergency rule changes often in various departments, and he did it for child care several times. His predecessor did the same thing. So this is not an unusual precedent. So the reason we have JCAR, the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules, is so they can take care of some of the nuances. But the bottom line is, we're back to where we were practically. That's a success. That's forward progress in football, as they would say.
So there are people who don't think this is a victory because the numbers are not fully restored, that there's still some people left out. So what do you say to those people?
The compromise is at 162 now, but once we have a full budget, we'll be back at the full 185. Mm-hmm. And that was what the governor agreed on. He agreed on with the Senate sponsor as well. And the House sponsor was fully aware of all of the details with that. That's, again, the Senate sponsor was at 157. Mm-hmm. The House sponsor said no, based off of my numbers, what my people are telling me in my Peoria area should be at 162. I wanted 185. My thing was, if I can get the governor to go to do a complete about face on the determination of need score, and he agreed last Thursday and last Friday to be at 185. Then he talked to the Senate sponsor and his staff, and they wrestled and wrangled. They came up with the 162.
Did you get a rough treatment in the House caucus yesterday? It has been reported that you did.
I just heard the "Come on, Ken."
No,
that was on the floor.
Yeah. We got into some intense discussion. I'll put it like that. It was probably the most animated. Some would probably say the most animated and raucous caucus in quite some time.
So they knew. Did they know what you were going to do?
No. I told them what I was trying to articulate to members. Well, that's not true. They knew what I was going to do. I was trying to impart to them. There's an agreement. There's a compromise. The governor took actions on Monday in both categories. So and his thing was, please don't run the bill to try to hamstring me. We reached an agreement. I said, Governor, you're going to have to prove to folk that you're sincere, that you have integrity, that they can trust you. So Make the changes now to the Don score. And he sent me that letter. Did you all get the letter? Make the changes now for the CCAP, Child Care Assistance Program. And he did it. He did this on Monday.
Did he surprise you when he did this?
We argued, I've been fussing at him, calling him, cussing at him as well for the last several weeks of how ridiculous it was to decimate a program, a child care program, practically. To go for a family of two to go from making $650 a month, well, from $2,400 a month to $650 per month. I said, you just decimated the program. 90,000 people left safe, affordable child care because of you. How does that help this state's citizenry? How does this help what it is that you believe in, what your wife believes in? How's this fair to people who don't give a damn about our childish politics of not being able to work together and compromise on solutions, multiple solutions in this state? It does nothing. So I talked with him very, very actively. He and we talked actively. And I insisted that he talk to the bill sponsors, he and his administrative team, to get that child care piece done. And when you're compromising in politics, why look to embarrass someone? We can change our minds on legislation and policy. The governor can change his mind. So enough of the games already.
Are you developing a close relationship with the governor, do you believe?
I think I am coming to terms with him being able to listen to reason. He's tenacious. I'm tenacious. I'm insistent. I'm passionate about doing what I need to do for our citizens. He's the governor. The fact is that we're going to have to work with him. People are in some distant belief that we don't have to work with him. All of us have to work and get along. Once we appropriate a budget and walk away, we expect him to administer it. The program, administer government programs from dialysis funding to human services to mental health. So we have to have some level of respect, some level of trust that we're going to do what we say we're going to do.
You got to go in the ranch?
The ranch?
You know, when he really likes you, he takes you to the ranch.
Oh, I haven't been there. I've been fussing at him too long.
You don't seem like a fisherman. But then again, I didn't think Meeks was either.
Yeah, I fish. Okay. You know, I've been down. I've been around some of the state's Great Lakes. We have some incredible lakes here.
But not with Rounder.
No. Listen, I'm interested in getting things done, and I think our leaders should be on that same plane. Other members should be in that direction as well. If the leaders are not able to reach a compromise, people like myself and any other House or Senate member should be able to insist on us working together on some things.
So let me ask you this.
So let me say this finally, so you can. I've said enough. The Senate sponsor had agreed not to call the bill.
I know. But
now,
she also was supportive of it being called in the House.
Yeah.
She said.
Yeah, but the deal was, according to the governor's office, was that don't call the bill. We're going to do what we say we're going to do. That's how you compromise. That's how you build trust amongst each other. That's how it works in politics and in relationships.
Could I just ask about what people are saying about Speaker Madigan? Like, can you tell me about your relationship with him? Yesterday he said that you have not spoken since, I want to say August. He said that he called you the day of the September 2nd vote, and you have not spoken since. Can you tell me, people are saying this was like you sticking it to the Speaker. What do you say to that?
I work with the Speaker when I can. I work with Republicans and Democrats on issues when I can. I don't have a vendetta against the Speaker or the Governor or any House Republicans or any House Democrats. The speaker knows how to reach me as I do him. If he wants to communicate with me, that's fine. I don't go down to Springfield 3 hours each way to say I'm going to stick it to the speaker. Right now, we have to start. We have to come out of our political egos and get something done for citizens. This is not about the speaker. This is not about Ken Dunkin or any other politician. It's about delivering the services that we took an oath of office to deliver, and to do it in a reasonable, timely fashion that does not handicap the state. And right now, we have not been doing that satisfactorily. All right?
So did you see this about Andrade taking your nameplate? And
Ooh, you guys are, y'all.
what'd you think of that?
Andrade is a nice guy. He was just got a little bit emotional.
Did you see that actually, or were you off the floor then?
I saw it. That's okay.
He wasn't trying to be funny. He did get over. He got emotional. I didn't see it.
Yeah, he was.
Did you
a little,
see it?
I didn't see it on the video.
Yeah.
I just read about it.
Yeah, he got a little emotional, but he's a nice guy. You know, I hugged him. I hugged him and kissed him on the forehead.
Right. Look, you're trying to break away, right?
Yes.
So I'm just gonna keep, I went up down to the veterans ceremony at Soldier Field this
Yes.
morning. I thought maybe you'd be there.
Yeah,
And,
I should have been there.
Well, I'm not, first thing somebody said to me was, "Well, what did Dunkin get?" And that's what people really. That's the way power. You know that's the
Sure.
way power. What did you get? Did you get anything else? You get any promises for your district?
I got
Which,
promised
by the way, runs from Wells Street
from.
to
Let
79.
me explain this district to you and you, Hines. My district goes from Division and LaSalle. All those bars on Rush Street,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michigan Avenue, to the Hyatt Regency, from Division and LaSalle to 79th and Paxson. That's east of Jeffrey. Literally from the Gold Coast to the Soul Coast. That's my district.
It's a big area.
It's just nuts.
Yeah.
And you were redistricted into that against your will?
Some portions of it. I went for a little further south. The speaker's staff said,
Have you always been this far north?
yes, this used to be my district. I used to be at North Avenue. They said I had too many whites in my district.
Is Rauner in your district?
No.
No, okay.
How would I know that?
Well, you would know. It lives, it's like, we could go over and show his building.
Oh, really?
It looks like it's about 2 blocks east of your district to me, but it comes right by you.
Okay, all right. I don't know what that means. If he does live in my district,
Well, I thought if he
I hope he
does,
votes
it's just
for
an
me.
interesting
I hope he
thing.
votes for me.
You should know. I mean, you should have figured that out.
Yeah, I know one thing. He does not live in it. That's for sure.
Okay.
So,
Could I
How-
just sneak in one more where you're talking about the compromise?
you know you're over the limit.
Yes. I know I'm over
He
the
exceeded the limit.
I'm over the limit. But so you're talking about this compromise, these meetings we've had with the governor. Do you think that's the key to getting this budget,
That is-
not bills?
That the way you resolve a budget impasse and you iron out differences is you have to start communicating and compromising. That's what politics is. The art of compromise. We should be doing it every single day. This is such a stale argument or issue. Everywhere I go, people say, when are you guys gonna get your act together and get me a budget? Literally from the Gold Coast to the Soul Coast. They're asking that question. So this is a jumpstart approach towards us moving to an overall compromise. That's what the Speaker, that's what Democrats, that's what the Senate President and other members should be concerned with. Us moving the agenda on behalf of the citizens and getting past whatever political issues we have, which don't mean nothing for most people across the state. We want to protect our unions. We want to protect our children. We want to fund education. We want to make sure public safety is at the top of the food chain, as well as human services being delivered, and seeing to it that we fund higher education at an adequate level. Those are the salient issues that citizens, that's all they're talking about.
I stepped on my own question earlier about whether you got something out of it other than these policy changes? You get anything for your district?
That's all I wanted.
Are you looking for anything?
That's
for your
all.
district?
I'm looking for this governor to be responsive to all the citizens' needs across this state, and to keep his ears open for further education of what it is that we need to do to play the best role that we can as a government. That's it.
You know, the governor's kind of on record out there, before he became governor, as thinking that it's possible to drive a wedge, and his words, between those wanting, in the Democratic Party, wanting social services, and the public employee unions and their needs. Are you a guy that he can do that with?
I am strongly against trying to dismantle the unions. People should have a right to be unionized. I'm a 99% supporter of unions, the public unions, the service unions, the trades union. I'm almost 100% solid. There may be a slight variance. My voting record speaks to that.
I think so, yeah.
100%.
But what about the
Or
union?
98%, 99,
What
98%.
about the union arbitration bill that you missed, the override?
If I was here, I would have voted for it.
Okay.
I'm a co-sponsor.
You know, we still think you were like intent. You know, you didn't want to,
Right.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I would have voted for that.
Yeah.
but you weren't here.
I was not here.
And you were in New York for.
Oh, no, Mark, you're going back with old news.
All the time,
I was in New York for, and I'll present a package to you to speak to this. I was at a job summit that was previously scheduled, and I was at an event where there were 40 tennis youth volunteers, parents, that is being set up in my district, and that was pre-planned. Now, I talked with the speaker prior to that and told him, when we came down there, even the week before, I said, listen, there's a funeral that I may go to of a friend of my wife's who was a victim of 9/11 that I may attend. I know my wife was attending. I was going to be there as well. There was a job summit that was pre-planned, as well as this tennis to the U.S. Open for the youth in my district to attend. So I shared that with he and the chief of staff. I said, keep in mind, we could have stayed an extra day the week that I was there. We could have called this bill. I mean, we have a certain timeline, but we could have gotten this done. The question is, does everyone want to get something done? Does everybody truly want to compromise? Or is it to really, let's stick it to the next guy scenario? I'm not interested in that. That's the takeaway that you and the public should get.